Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a war zone? Imagine the fear, the chaos, the uncertainty. This is the reality for the people of Gaza. In this corner of the world, conflict has escalated to a terrifying degree. The Israeli army, in an effort to isolate Hamas, has launched airstrikes on northern Gaza, laying the groundwork for imminent ground battles with Hamas militants. The devastation is immense, with the death toll surpassing 11,000. This conflict has become the deadliest Israeli-Palestinian violence in 75 years. As the war creeps into urban centers, the situation grows increasingly dire. Airstrikes have not only targeted militant strongholds, but have also hit United Nations facilities and hospitals, causing even more devastation. This includes the Shifa hospital, currently encircled by Israeli forces. This hospital, claimed by Israel to be a Hamas headquarters, is now a site of immense human suffering, with patients and displaced civilians trapped inside. The impact on the civilian populace is staggering. Essential supplies are dwindling, and around 70% of Gaza's residents have been forced to flee their homes, creating a mass exodus of people seeking safety from the relentless conflict. The human cost is heartbreaking. Over 40% of the deaths are children, and the majority of Gaza's population has been rendered homeless. With the war moving towards close urban combat, casualties are predicted to rise, painting a bleak picture for the future. The world watches as this crisis unfolds, with calls for a humanitarian pause growing louder. Yet no agreement has been reached so far, and the people of Gaza continue to live in fear, chaos, and uncertainty. As the conflict intensifies, casualties are expected to rise, bringing more devastation to the already beleaguered region. In the midst of war, the most vulnerable often suffer the most. This is painfully evident in Gaza. The humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza is heartbreaking and severe. Hospitals, the very sanctuaries of safety and health, are now encircled by conflict. The situation at Shifa Hospital is particularly dire. Trapped and under constant fire, patients, medical staff, and displaced civilians are living through a nightmare. With decomposing bodies piling up due to the lack of resources, the hospital's staff have been forced to dig a mass grave within the hospital grounds, and the crisis doesn't end at the hospital walls. The majority of Gaza's population is now homeless, their lives uprooted by the raging conflict. Families, children, the elderly, all stripped of the comfort of their homes, are now left to grapple with uncertainty and fear. Essential supplies are dwindling at an alarming rate. Fuel, crucial for running life-saving equipment like incubators, is in short supply. Offers of aid, like portable incubators from Israel, have been made, but the logistics of their evacuation remain unresolved. The death toll is staggering. Medical officials in Gaza report over 11,000 confirmed deaths from Israeli strikes. Children, the most innocent and vulnerable, make up around 40% of this appalling figure. Amid the chaos, the encirclement of Shifa Hospital has sparked international concern. Hospitals, traditionally regarded as neutral ground in times of war, are now in the line of fire. The international community is alarmed, calling for the protection of these vital institutions, yet the crisis continues to deepen. The death toll rises, supplies run thinner, and the homeless population grows. The people of Gaza, trapped in the midst of this conflict, are facing unimaginable hardships. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of war. One cannot help but wonder, how is the world reacting to this crisis? Are we doing enough? The international response to the unfolding crisis in Gaza has been diverse and in many ways inadequate. There have been calls from various corners for a humanitarian pause, a respite from the violence to allow aid to reach the beleaguered residents of Gaza. President Joe Biden, among others, has voiced support for this sentiment. Yet despite these pleas, an agreement has yet to be reached, and the violence continues unabated. Meanwhile, other nations are stepping in to provide direct aid. Jordan, for instance, has airdropped medical supplies to a field hospital in northern Gaza. This has been a crucial lifeline, but it barely scratches the surface of what is truly needed. The health system in Gaza is on the brink of collapse, with hospitals like Shifa under siege and lacking resources, including fuel for incubators. Egypt, too, has made commendable efforts, opening its crossing with Gaza to allow for the evacuation of Palestinian patients. Over 450 trucks laden with aid have trundled into Gaza from Egypt, a sight that brings a glimmer of hope amid the devastation. However, it's clear that this is still insufficient. The sheer scale of the crisis, with over 11,000 confirmed deaths and the majority of Gaza's population homeless, demands a far more substantial response. Moreover, the continued violence is a stark reminder that aid alone is not enough. As long as the conflict rages on, no amount of supplies can fully address the humanitarian crisis. The international community's response must go beyond band-aid solutions. It must seek to address the root causes of the conflict and push for an end to the violence. The international community's response to the crisis has been mixed, with many calling for more decisive action. Behind the headlines and the political debates, there are real people suffering. Let's not forget them. As we delve into the impact of this conflict on civilians, we find a grim reality. The toll of the conflict has been devastating. Over 11,000 lives have been extinguished, and it's heartbreaking to note that nearly 40% of these were children. These are not mere statistics, but lives cut short, dreams crushed, and futures stolen. Imagine living with the constant toll of airstrikes and encirclement. Picture the fear of being trapped inside a hospital, like those inside Gaza's Shifa hospital. Patients, many of them children, are confined to a building under constant fire, with decomposing bodies and dwindling resources. The hospital, alleged by Israeli forces to be a Hamas headquarters, is now a prison for those seeking refuge and medical aid. The civilians of Gaza are not just battling the conflict, but also a severe scarcity of essential supplies. The majority of the population has been made homeless, with their homes reduced to rubble. They live with the uncertainty of not knowing when or where the next strike will happen, or if they'll have enough food and water for the next day. The fear and uncertainty that pervade every aspect of daily life are unimaginable. Children are growing up amidst violence and destruction, their innocence stolen away. They are forced to comprehend the harsh realities of war at an age when they should be learning and playing. The psychological trauma inflicted on these civilians, especially the children, will reverberate for generations. The wounds of war are not just physical, but also mental and emotional. The echoes of this conflict will linger long after the last gunshot has been fired. The human cost of this conflict is often lost in the political narratives and strategic discussions, but it's essential to remember that behind every number is a name, a face, a story. These are people like you and me, caught in a conflict they did not choose, paying a price they cannot afford. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable, and it's the civilians who bear the brunt of it. In the face of such devastation, one may feel helpless. But there are ways to make a difference. In the world we live in today, we all possess the power to incite change and provide assistance, even from afar. The crisis in Gaza is one such instance where our collective efforts can have a profound impact. One way to contribute is by donating to humanitarian organizations. These groups are tirelessly working on the ground to provide much-needed medical aid, food supplies, and shelter to those affected. Every penny you donate can help save a life, provide a warm meal, or offer a safe space to someone who has lost everything. Raising awareness about the crisis is another way to help. The power of social media is immense. Use it to share reliable news, write about the crisis, or simply talk about it with your friends and family. The more people are aware of the situation, the more pressure there is on world leaders to act. Advocating for a peaceful resolution is crucial. Reach out to your local representatives, engage in peaceful protests, or join online campaigns calling for an end to the violence. The voices of the many can echo louder than the guns of the few. Education is key. Learn about the intricacies of the situation, the history of the conflict, and the people involved. Understanding the context can lead to more informed discussions and actions. Use your voice to make a difference. Write to your local newspaper, start a blog, or use your platform to speak out. Your words can inspire others to act and can help keep the spotlight on the crisis. Remember, every action, no matter how small, can have a ripple effect. A single tweet can reach thousands. A small donation can provide a meal. A letter to a representative can bring about policy change. In times of crisis, every action counts. Your involvement can help alleviate the suffering of the people of Gaza. Stand up, speak out, and make a difference.